Welcome to GPS for your life. By using your date, time, and town of birth, and systems like Humandesign, Gene Keys, and astrology, Ashley Goner and Jeannie Winters will show you how to remember what you wanted to experience in this lifetime to finally find clarity, purpose, and alignment in your life. Join them now for the next episode.
Welcome back to GPS for Your Life. I'm your host, Jeannie Winters, and this is day 2 of the Breaking Down the Bodygraph in Humandesign series, which is 13 consecutive days. So yesterday we spoke about the sun and the earth, both in the unconscious and conscious positions. We're going to move on to the North Node and South Node. They show up as the North Node first and the South Node, but in reality, you live out your South Node first, and then you move on to your North Node. So I'm going to explain what those two positions are. So they're not really planets, but they're cosmic energies, or people call them different things, entities, cosmic entities. But the South Node it represents your natural strengths, familiar patterns, and past experiences that you rely on. It's things that some people say it's your strengths that you bring in from a past life. Others say it's things that you unconsciously or subconsciously absorb from your environment as you're growing up when you're little. And it's the things that you can count on, right? Most people default to it. Well, pretty much everybody defaults to it because it's where they're comfortable, right? Now, your North Node is actually what your destiny is. It is usually your weakness. It's the thing that you run from the most, which is totally on the other side of the spectrum to your South Node. They're always opposite each other on the natal chart, or on any of the natal charts. So the thing about it is, I don't know if that's going to show up. Okay. So the interesting part is that this actually goes on. Your South Node is dominant in the first 40 years of your life. Between 38 and 40, you do what we call a natal shift. I'm sorry, a nodal shift, and you go from your South Node and you're kind of forced out of your comfort zone into going towards your North Node, which again is your destiny. So you want to do this in your life, but when you're here in the flesh, you fight it as much as you can because it's not something that you're comfortable with, right? Stepping out of your comfort zone. So I'm going to go over a couple of people's nodes and explain how it works. Now, what I did in the end was I created a prompt for you to use so that when we're done, you can actually copy and paste the exact prompt, and there'll be one area that'll say, I think it's human design expressions, and you put your gate information, your 4 gates there. And then you will be able to, it'll actually, the way I have it written out is it'll give you a full life story. So your nodes are like your life path. It's where you're coming from and where you're going to, right? Everything else is, it's all like seasonings and stuff about your life. So for example, my South Node is in the 7th house in astrology, and that's about relationships. My North Node is in my first house, which is all about me. So I was very comfortable being a people pleaser, and taking care of everybody else first. So when I got to 38, 40, my life started pushing back on me because I kept taking care of everybody else. So I started getting sicker and all sorts of things started happening to force me to take better care of myself. So now I have to have boundaries and stuff like that. It's just what I chose to do. So it's important to know where your South Node is and your North Node. And the thing with Humandesign is that it actually goes in much deeper, and it doesn't just tell you what your path is, but it tells you how it plays out as far as are you here to inform people? Are you here to create something new? Are you here to um, be a role model? Are you here to be part, lead the community or be a part of like some kind of community activist program. It gives you all the things that you're headed toward. Are you supposed to be on stage somewhere doing speeches or, entertaining or whatever it is? Um, so usually it's whatever you're doing when you're younger. It tends to be the opposite of what you want to do when you're older. I want to make sure that everybody understands. So every planet or planetary entity has its own aligned expression and it has its own two shadow expressions. When you add on the gate and the line, it changes those three expressions depending on what the gate and the line are about. So the south node aligned expression is that you use your gifts and past experiences as a strong foundation while continuing to grow toward the lesson of the North Node, whatever your North Node is about, right? So it's giving you a generic, this is what you'd be doing, but it depends on, the specifics would depend on what gate you have. The repressive shadow, I made myself notes. The repressive shadow is where you become stuck in familiar habits, old ways of thinking, avoiding the growth that comes from stepping into something new. So if somebody is like strong in, they're supposed to be speaking out, what would happen is they would pull back and not speak up because this is a repressive. Again, it's things go inward. And so you may beat yourself up and say, oh, I should have said something, or why can't I speak, or what's my problem? But you wouldn't be expressing it outward. Other people would just think you were quiet. Now, in the reactive shadow of this, you would reject your natural gifts and expect, sorry, and past experiences altogether, believing that you have to completely abandon who you were um, in your South Node. Everything that you did in your younger days, it has to be, you have to move. You have to get away from it. You can't deal with that anymore. And as you get to your North Node, you don't really abandon your South Node, but you don't lean on it. You don't rely on it alone. You actually push away a little bit, and you're pushed more toward what your weakness is so that you can learn new things and express yourself a different way. Now, when it comes to the North Node, it is very similar as far as the expressions. Oops. Okay, I'll just give you an example. So I'll tell you the North Node, first the meaning, represents the direction your life is naturally pulling you toward, revealing the experiences, qualities, and lessons that help you grow into your highest potential. So like I said, the North Node is your destiny. It's the thing that you came here to do. So if you saw one of my other episodes, one of my first episodes, it's called The Setup. So the first 21 years of your life, you're literally setting yourself up to be triggered by different wounds that you selected. Between 21 and 28, you're out there experiencing life, deciding what direction you want to go and what makes you happy, what life scenario, you want to live out, right? It's always along the lines of what you're here to do anyway. But when you're 28 to 40, 40, 50, you're actually going up the path backwards, healing all the things that you came here to be wounded, right? So all your wounds are healing. When you get to 40, like I said, you cross over, you do a switch, but it takes a little while for you to actually transition. It's not something that just happens overnight. So it switches, and by the time you hit 50, that's when you step into your destiny. So you're very well acquainted with your North Node and you feel much more comfortable with it and everything starts to make sense. This is if you're living in alignment, obviously. So the aligned expression is you're willing to step into new experiences that stretch your abilities, trusting that growth comes from embracing the path that you're here to follow. Now, the repressive expression here is that you resist moving forward, staying in familiar patterns because change feels uncomfortable or uncertain. But the reactive shadow is you force yourself toward a future that isn't truly aligned, chasing external expectations instead of growing at your own natural pace. So that's important because if you think that you're supposed to be going in one direction and you're feeling all of this resistance, you're probably not going in the right direction. I mean, that is literally the universe's way of telling you you're going in the wrong direction. That doesn't mean that if you wanted to be in the medical field, that you're not supposed to be in the medical field, but maybe you're not supposed to be a doctor, maybe you're supposed to be a dentist, or maybe you're supposed to do research, or maybe there's many different areas. You probably sense the area you're supposed to be in or the direction, but you might not be in a position or going toward a position that is in alignment with you. So you may want to step back and literally ask the question, what, show me what I don't know. And literally within 3 days, you get all these different synchronicities that give you the answer if you're paying attention, right? You may be sitting on the couch and all of a sudden you get this feeling that you want coffee and you usually go to Starbucks, which is over here, but for some reason you want to go to McDonald's over here. Go. The reason that you're sensing that you want to go somewhere else is because you're going to pass something. You're going to hear something on the radio, or you're going to see some type of a sign, or you're going to happen to overhear a conversation while you're there. Something is going to give you the next step. And it might not be the answer, but it'll be the next step. You might see something about a conference, and so you decide to look up the conference, and then you decide to maybe to go. And when you get there, you run into a bunch of people that are interested in the same thing that you are, and then you become friends with them, and then you find out that they have a job opening and it's something that you were really interested in. So you took steps to get there, but you have to follow them. If you feel the need to, if you're on the computer and you are reading, let's say you're just looking up recipes or music, and all of a sudden a dog food commercial comes up and you don't have an animal. Well, if it catches your attention, you need to click on it because it's not that commercial. It's something 2 or 3 clicks down the line that will give you an answer. If you follow whatever catches your attention, eventually you're going to get to the answer that you're looking for because the universe or God gives you the answer in the path of least resistance. We just don't follow the hints. Now, another thing about the nodes is that it's also, if you're in business and you want to know who your client, your ideal client is, if you look at the line for the nodes, they're going to be that both nodes on one side are going to be one number, just like your sun and earth, and it's going to be probably different numbers than your sun and earth. And the other side is going to be the same number over there. So for example, I have a 1-3 profile. So I have a .1 on the conscious side of my, or the black side of my human design chart. And then I have a .3 on the unconscious side. Well, in my north node and south node, I have a .6 on my both conscious side and of both of them. And then I have a .2 on the unconscious side. So what the 2 and the 6 tell me about my ideal client is that the 2 says that I deal with people who are naturally interested in what I'm offering. So I don't, which is really funny for me because I way over explain things. I'm working on it. So I'm not supposed to over explain because people who are interested in what I sell are already, they pick up on it relatively quickly, right? And so they understand what I'm teaching. I don't have to say it 6 different ways. The six says that I'm probably going to be dealing with people in the second half of their life, which obviously is what I do. And it's over 50 because six is a very mature person. A six has to do with being a role model. And so people would be interested in what I have to say if they're in the second part of their life when they've gone through all the stuff that you're just gung ho about swearing you've got this down, you don't need anybody else's help. A six is a person that's like, yeah, I don't really have it all down and I really could use a little bit of guidance and stuff like that. And that's my customer. So if you are if you have like a dot three, for example, and a dot one there, your client would be somebody who's interested in trial and error, somebody who's really interested in getting involved in whatever it is that you do. They really are interested in getting their hands on it, right? And then, so like if you were selling cars, you definitely would want to deal with somebody in person who was being tactical, who wanted to drive the different cars, as opposed to somebody who was going to buy online, right? The one would mean that that person probably would go online and do their research, a deep amount of research, because that's the foundation before they came and tested the car. But that's exactly the kind of person that you want, the person who does their homework about whatever it is that you're selling, and then they come and they test it out, and then that would be the person that would buy from you. So it's very helpful when you're running your own business or doing any type of marketing. You would know who that you can sell to. Okay, so the first one I want to talk about, this person has a 28.1 in their, I believe it's their conscious. Yeah, 28.1 in their conscious south node and 44.2 in their unconscious south node. So the 28.1, 28 is all about, it's called purposelessness. If you're in the shadow, it means that you're always looking to fulfill your purpose. So imagine having this in your south node. You are looking for meaning in life. And with the line one, it's very foundational. So you're doing a lot of research. Why am I here? What's this reason? Why did this happen to me? What am I supposed to do with it? But in its repressive shadow, they become afraid of taking risks to get those answers. In their reactive shadow, it becomes where they take too many risks, right? And so in the aligned expression, it's all about, you know, being curious and stepping forward when things are, you're sure about which direction you want to go. The problem is when you're in your south node, as a child, you're usually living it in one of the shadow expressions. You're not usually living it in alignment, and you may be in and out of it alignment, but you're mostly in the shadow because that's the whole idea, is to be here and learn. So as a child, it could be this person could have been giving up on activities and moving from activity to activity, trying to figure out which is their thing. Am I supposed to be a dancer? Am I supposed to be, a volleyball player? Am I supposed to be, swimmer or whatever? So it gets frustrating for them because they're not sure, but they're always seeking what it is. Now, their unconscious south node would be, their unconscious south node would be 44.2, which means this person can actually see patterns in people that other people can't, right? They catch on to what's underlying before the average person does. So if it's a child, they can tell what's going on with their parents, that there's something off before the parents let on that anything is that way, or before a sibling would notice it. In the repressive shadow, they may have ignored these instincts. So excuse me, they could have doubted themselves, trusted people who repeatedly let them down, or dismissed the uncomfortable feeling they picked up from others. That is obviously dangerous as a child. because if your body tells you that something is not right, that's what you should be listening to, not trying to make logic out of it. So this person could sense if someone was, good or bad for them, but if they were taught by their family to trust people and everybody's good and stuff like that, they would override that, and that's not healthy. In the reactive shadow, it may be becoming overly cautious or suspicious. So that can, if you get disappointed by one of your friends, that what that can do is that could make you second guess everybody. You think that everybody's going to let you down and nobody's got your back, and you feel like, why don't I fit in and all that kind of stuff. And so it's important that, again, that you understand that as a child, you will probably be in the shadow aspect in these different areas more than you are in the aligned expression. Now, I'm going to move to the so the turning point, again, going from your south node to your north node, is around 38 to 40, right? That's when this happens. Now, your north node pops in here and there, but you tend to push it away because you're not really looking to do what it is that it's usually the thing that you want to do the least. As this person matures, so this they grow into someone who nurtures, protects, and supports others in healthy ways. So this person's conscious north node is 27.1. 27 is called nourishment. It's also nurturing, and at a level, at a line one, that is very foundational again. So it's all about making sure that everybody else is okay. So the experiences that this person has as a child, as they get older, they teach people, they're here to teach people, about the patterns that they noticed, or about not trusting people, or trusting, your intuition to know what's right and what's not right. So it's important that you understand the transition, because all four of these gates work together with each other, right? So 28.1, which was, I believe, the conscious south node, 28 is half of the channel of struggle. Anybody who has a 28 tends to learn, regardless of the line, learn through struggle. I do know that this person as a child definitely struggled. And they did struggle with trusting people and having people let them down and having to learn who to trust and who not to trust. So, like I said, what they do when they as they get older and they're not there yet, when they do their nodal shift from the south node to the north node, they will be at a point where they realize, okay, so I had to learn how to do this, but now I need to teach others the wisdom of what to look for. Or so this person might end up being a therapist or a counselor, or work with children who are potentially abused or abandoned, things like that, right? The unconscious north node would be gate 24 2. So dot two. So gate 24 is remember, the conscious node is all anything that's conscious you're aware of. The unconscious part is what you're not aware of. It's still a very deep part of you, but you're not aware of it until you grow into it as you get older. So their unconscious north node is 24.2. 24 is very tricky. It is the gate of the shadow is called addiction. What it is addictive thinking. You think and think and think and overthink things. And you tend to, in the shadow aspects, you will cycle rethinking so much that you can drive yourself crazy, right? Not literally, I guess you could literally, but that's what 24 is. So she has a 24 2. The 2 is called the natural, right? So this person naturally understands that if they're living in alignment, that the answers are only going to come, as things unfold. So she doesn't need to keep rehashing it. But two is a projected channel. So this person is actually projecting out to people that they know they know the answers. Whether that's true or not doesn't mean, it doesn't mean that that's true. So, but when people come to her about whatever it is that, about when to listen to your intuition or not. She might not be an expert at that time. She might still be too young to really know how to explain it, but people will see her as she knows what she's talking about, so I'm going to go to her for the answer. And that's not always the case. As she gets older, she probably will be that person, and people will come to her for answers because she's gone through it all and she's come out the other end. Okay. But that's what a two is. A two is very, very natural. And they tend to it's called the hermit, and they tend to do a lot of thinking on their own about, whatever the topic is. So in the shadow, in the repressive shadow, she could actually overthink things a lot, but not really talk about it to anybody. Just keep it all in and question everything. And what did they mean by that? And did I do the right thing or whatever? And then on the reactive, sorry, on the reactive expression, she could outwardly express that, she knows what she's talking about and you don't know what you're talking about, and just be very expressive about it. But what people have to understand is that, especially with the 24, you're not going to get your answers in the moment. You're going to get your answers as it unfolds. And so the more you sit there and you overthink it, the longer it's going to take for you to get the answer. So like somebody with a 24 will find a lot of times that they'll get answers to things as they're driving, or they're distracted, or if they're in the shower, because you're not really paying attention, all of a sudden you have these epiphanies. That's what a 24 is. That's when 24 is living the way they should, regardless of the line, they find their answers when they finally let go of the question. Putting it all together, um, as a child, this person went through questioning and trying to find out why they're here, what their purpose is, what am I going to do in the future? And it was just extremely important to them. They also were picking up on patterns, remember? So that all of the things that they did, questioning patterns of people and questioning their purpose and how those two come together, is what brought them to that's what they're supposed to use later in life so that they can help other people. Everything that happens when you're younger is for you to use in wisdom, to share your wisdom about later in life. And it's usually 50 and on is when you're actually in your destiny. Um, you cross over your nodes between 38 and 40, and then you go through the 40s, which is like reconciliation years of things that you just never put to rest or never healed. And then in your 50s, you start sharing this information with other people. So, in order for you to get a story written out for you to give you an idea of what you are supposed to experience and what you're supposed to do with it, go to the comments below, or the description below, and copy the prompt and change the section here that says your different nodes and your different gates, and make sure that you put the right thing. So the one on top that looks like a horseshoe going down is your north node, and it's on both sides. And the ones with the it's going up is your south node, right? The way some people remember it is when it's open at the top, you're being poured into, which is true. And then when you're older at your north node, you're pouring out to the rest of the world. So hopefully you enjoy this, and I will see you tomorrow.